Sorry. Hi, everybody. I'm not quite ready to go. Okay. Here we go.
Hey, it's me.
She's a former mayor. They're a former evangelical pastor with dissociative identity disorder. These two like to talk about the topics you're not supposed to talk about. They might cause you to perspire just a bit, but they'll definitely make you inspired. Let's talk religion and politics, and what spirituality and emotional well-being look like in a post-evangelical world. This is Paul and Ashley on Evangelicalish.
All right. Now, that wasn't my fault. StreamYard's moved everything around, and I couldn't find it. So, yeah.
Someday we need to run the open with the back office cam going so you can see the dance moves that I do every time. I have in my head, I have choreographed the 60-second open tour show. It's brilliant. Brilliant.
You could do it as a TikTok dance here sometime.
Yeah. And with this polka dot shirt on and everything, look at the visuals. Anyway.
We could put like a blue light on you or something. Oh Lord, I'm looking. So it was going to be 106 in Fresno.
Yeah. What is it?
Fahrenheit.
Should I?
It's down to 104 now. So
yes. Okay. I feel like Apple Weather or whatever is the app that comes on our phones. Unless I downloaded this, I don't remember. But it's always it right out of the gate. It's always worse than it's going to be, and I appreciate that. It's like I'd rather you shock me with 106 and then it's only 104. That feels better.
Okay, so
that.
Over, what is it? Under promise, over deliver.
Exactly. Over budget, under deliver. I don't know.
So now the bad news is it was supposed to get to 68 on Tuesday as the high and really weird stuff. But
I don't think that was the low. That wasn't the high.
No, that was the high for a moment, but now it's going to be 80 on Tuesday, which is still fine. But so now we're talking about doing what every good Central Californian does on 104 or above degree Saturday. We go to the Central
Coast. That's the idea. Everybody will see you at Ducky's on Saturday for
now
a
you
bowl
got to
of clam chowder.
Explain what Ducky's is.
Ducky's is a crowd favorite in a little sleepy beach community called Cayucas in San Luis County, and it's on this beach. It's there's just a little small retail development, and Ducky's is just a fun place to go and get some clam chowder or whatever. And if you go there in the summer, it's the entire region of Central Valley drains into Ducky's Chowder House.
Yeah.
So everybody there is from the Valley, Central Valley.
And when you were mayor of Fresno, you never felt like when we were on the Central Coast, you could go out without being made up because your entire constituency would be in Pismo.
I could go to the beach, I was over there to not be recognized or whatever. And so I would just let it all hang out in the mom shorts and the mom tan kiwi top.
I remember you saying I can't go out looking like this.
But no, because I was going out like that.
We're in Fresno West.
When on the beach, who cares? No one knows anybody. But then you go into the restaurant and everyone's like, "Hey, mayor," and I'm like, "Oh."
So, but we consider ourselves. We've been to Pismo so many times. We consider ourselves not to be tourists, which Pismo people would laugh at us for thinking that.
Yes.
But everybody goes to a place called Splash Cafe, and they think that
the tourists do. That's right.
This is the place to go.
Yes.
We think Splash Cafe sucks and is massively overrated. Sorry, Splash Cafe.
You think, but I would say this. I don't think it sucks. I just think it's it's just not. It's not as
you froze up. That's
sorry. Glitchy.
Ducky's Chowder House in Cayucas is massively better, and you don't have to wait for 2 hours with the tourists to get in.
Yes. So we'll see. We'll see how crowded it is over there this weekend. Okay. But I thought you were going to say we're that progressive. What is the insurance company that does ads where the man's you can't talk about the weather all the time. You're when you buy a house and you are your parents.
Oh,
the funny guy. Like
I don't know what
that is what
company it
this
is,
whole
but those
conversation
are
is
the
to me.
best commercials.
My grandmother, when I was in grade school, all my grandmother talked about was the weather, and I was like, "For God's sake, woman,
Yeah.
stop it." And now I'm just obsessed with the weather.
We
Oh my
would go to
god.
my grandmother's house, and she didn't have AC in her house, and it would be 1,000 degrees, and she would be like, "Oh, but there's a beautiful breeze coming out of the north." And I would be like, "Yeah, the breeze has taken it from 110 to 107 in the house." So, yeah.
Yeah, and it was real muggy back there too. Like, I don't know how you did no air
Oh, it
conditioning.
was brutal. It was
I see
brutal.
Pucky's comment, now it's gonna be full of tourists now that we've hyped it up. That's right, because so many people are watching right now that, like, we are gonna drive the population of the Central Coast.
It'll Pismo up for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
So it's going to be hot in Fresno and our little suburb, white flight suburb of Clovis this weekend. And there's a track meet going on, the state championship track meet going on in Clovis. And this has people shitting their pants. Maybe literally. I don't know.
It's quite a buzz. It's not a low-level buzz. It is a full-on, high-pitch fever scream from the halls of power at the White House itself. The top-ranked elected official in all the land has
Yeah.
decided that he should communicate about this person who's gonna be in our region this weekend.
I was going to say, not only is the mayor of Clovis chiming in on this, but the president of the freaking United States is talking about this track meet because we have an athlete in the long jump and triple jump who happens to be trans. And people are losing their ever loving, shall I say, fucking minds over this thing. And it makes me so angry. Can you imagine being a 16-year-old child in high school and the president of the fucking United States
No, I
is
can't. And
targeting you?
you know what? Like, I don't until and unless that's happening to you, I don't think you can really know. Like for all of us onlookers and like we're all just in this seems like fishbowl world of social media. And so like we're all like, oh yeah, like say this, say that, and it may but I'll never forget I can't remember I guess it was like impeachment hearings of some sort when you remember the two women, the mother and the daughter worked for the
Right,
county government
right.
and they were
Rudy
volunteering.
Giuliani targeted them. Yeah.
Yes, and, they testified in front of Congress about the impact of that of being the target of, the false attacks, and, like,
Yeah.
it was devastating to hear them talk about how, like, they couldn't go out of their house, they couldn't go to Home Depot, they couldn't like and it was all just because they were trying to, like, volunteer in the,
Yeah.
county election. So I can't imagine what it would be like for this athlete and her family. I can't at all.
It's awful. And to me, it's like I'm open to having a reasonable conversation about who should be competing with whom, but you cannot have a reasonable conversation. And so it's totally a cultural issue thing. It's not about women's sports where we are right now. And thinking about our guest we have on today, who's an amazing guest and we need to get to, but she's from the state of Utah. Our guest is, and Spencer Cox, who was a Republican governor of Utah I think in 2022, when a law was going to pass to ban trans children from competing in sports, wrote an amazing letter saying, I'm going to veto this law because I don't want to tell gay and trans children that you're not welcome to exist in Utah. And to me, that's what this is all about. These are just children and human beings trying to exist in the world. And that is so far beyond importance than medals and who's on a podium and who gets college scholarships. It's just mind-boggling to me. It just makes me so angry. I can barely speak on it. I hate it so much.
Yeah, although you might hate it, but you have spoken on it a lot. I mean, I feel like that is this is something that you have been talking about for months and months now, and then here it is coming right to our,
Yeah.
backyard in our community. Anyway,
Yeah.
but yes, and you have reflected a lot on that governor's letter, because I imagine that was maybe not what people expected from the governor of Utah, but it really
Right.
touched. I know it touched your heart a lot because I've heard you
Yeah.
talk about it a lot. So
And of course, the legislature overrode the veto. So, yeah, there we go. Republicans. All right, let's get to our guest today. And it's going to be a really interesting conversation, and she might have something to tell us about Spencer Cox. We'll see. But Heather Frazier is our guest, and she is a family coach with years of coaching experience. Heather Frazier is a passionate advocate for parents navigating the tricky terrain of raising teenagers. But today she's here to talk about her bestseller, or soon to be bestseller, Mom Got Jesus Wrong. Hallelujah. And the book is to help readers see themselves through a story of healing and healed wounds, that Jesus never wanted religion to be about patriarchy and misogyny and all these other terrible things that have become part of what Christianity looks like. Please welcome life coach, author, podcaster, and all around cool person, Heather Frazier. Hi, Heather.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's not
Thank
going to be
you.
106 this weekend in Salt Lake City, is it?
No, it was 84 today, and that was a little roasty. I was good with 84. And fun fact, I have met Spencer Cox.
Okay.
At,
Is he still governor there?
okay, full disclosure, politics really depress me. I think that he is.
Okay.
I don't follow them closely because when I do, it directly affects my mood. And I want to be able to get out of bed every day. So while I loosely follow politics, but he was very nice. I met him at a friend's house for dinner when he was making the circuit for election. He was very nice.
All right. Well, let's talk not politics. Let's talk religion and your book, Mom Got Jesus Wrong. Hallelujah. And it's interesting because we're in a time where a lot of people are deconstructing their religion, and there's this idea of like, well, let's just throw the bathwater and the baby out. And it appears like, what I've gathered from the bit of your book I've read, that you're still hanging on to Christianity and maybe a more formal religion. And so talk about how that's worked as you're thinking through the patriarchy and misogyny that's maybe impacted you through your life.
Yeah, I would love to share with you. So background information, I do belong to a high demand religion. I live in Utah, thus Governor Cox, and I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the LDS Church, Mormons, whatever you want to call it. And I love my religion, and I can see how it harms, because all humans harm each other. And every religion on the planet, even though we can claim Christ as our head or Buddha or whomever, we have faulty people running it. And people tend to like power, and they like to control. And when you put them in authority, while they might have altruistic desires, sometimes our human brain messes with us, and we can cause harm, whether through intentional or unintentional ways. We all harm each other. And I will tell you, as I have deconstructed my religious philosophy, I have been able to stay in my faith community. And that's my experience. And I love my experience. And I have had so many people that I love not be able to stay in their faith community when they deconstruct. And I think that both are valuable, and everybody has their own journey. And you can't blanket statement this. But my book, Mom Got Jesus Wrong, Hallelujah, it reads.
Can I just interrupt real quick? Because you just, I'm so intrigued now. And first off, forgive me for throwing out F-bombs in front of you. I'm so sorry about that.
You're fine. I don't care.
So what does deconstruction look like when staying in the LDS church?
Yeah, that's a valuable question.
That intrigues me deeply. Yeah.
Yes, it looks like grappling with hard truths and experiences, whether those are historical or current, and choosing to still show up every Sunday and worship while I work through the things that I dislike.
And do you get sort of labeled or stigmatized within the church? Like, are your views known within the congregation? And is there any sort of like ostracizing, or is there more openness to people who are going through deconstruction? Because I'll tell you, in our evangelical
Yeah.
charismatic world, there's not really room for that. It's actually pretty much a like,
That's
you know,
totally fair, and again, I can only speak to my experiences and those, that I am familiar with. My family and my faith community have all been supportive and open to different conversations, and if we're honest with each other, we all have questions, and we're scratching our heads at certain things and wishing things would progress faster and change more readily, and so I have felt very safe. And that is
Wow.
probably what has allowed me to stay.
and so, oh, pardon me, go ahead.
But I don't think that everybody has felt safe, and that's valid. That's
Yeah,
completely valid because I have heard a lot of stories of people who have decided, whether it's my specific religion or a different one, they have not been able to safely assess within their community. And that makes sense. And if I think it's easy to label people when they aren't staying with the herd, but it takes so much bravery to step outside of the herd.
right.
Mhm.
And so I
And
don't think anybody does it lightly.
yeah, it seems like, and I'm not speaking to the LDS church for sure because I don't have
Yeah.
experience there, or even the broader church, but like just my experience in dealing with like power and things that need to be reformed or transformed. There's always a point where you run into the powerful interest that may be dressed up a certain way or may be sort of presenting accommodation for a different inquiry or different like expression of faith, but like at some point it challenges, and like
Yeah.
there's there's like a like something's got to give. And so I like, has that moment happened yet for you, or is
Yes.
it like, well, okay, tell us about that.
Yes. And actually, this is one of the ahas that our character in the book has.
Okay.
And again, the character experiences a lot of my stories and stories that I am intimately aware of. And so while I might have to introduce it into the storyline different, the idea and the revelation, the insight is intact. And I wrote about this very specifically with my character. And I was in a religious setting, and it was supposed to be very spiritual and very beautiful. And all of a sudden, I just was so acutely aware of really misogynistic, patriarchal aspects of this ceremony that I had never been aware of. Like, I saw the patriarchy for the first time in this religious ceremony. And I had just sheer disgust and horror and just such an icky feeling wash over me. And in my coaching practice, I like to say that whenever we feel stuck, whenever we can't move through something or see something clearly, we have a cocktail of two things going on. We have unhealed wounds and pride.
Mm.
And so looking in that moment, I just had these wounds of being a woman in the world, right? I identify as a woman, and therefore for pluses and minuses, I get the experience of identifying as a woman. And I just felt so awful. And in that moment, I could have done one of two things. I could have responded with pride and been very angry and very loud and very belligerent and decided like, this is stupid and I'm out of here. But that would be because of my unhealed wounds of experiencing culture and religion as woman. And so I decided to be humble, the second option, which is harder up front, but easier on the backside. And so I just prayed to God and I was like, help me to understand this. Help me to make sense of how something that's supposed to be so good just really sucks right now. And I am a fairly visual person. And and so God shows me things in pictures sometimes. And it's really great because then I can see everything all at once and immediate understanding can come. So I pictured an ocean. God showed me an ocean in my head. And the ocean was this world. And everybody has to be on the ocean. Now you can choose which vessel. You can have flippers and a snorkel. You can be on a yacht. You can be on a cruise ship. You can be on an air tube. You can be in a raft. You can be in a speedboat. Like you can be in any vessel that you want and you can change vessels. But you're still on the ocean. You're going to get seasick. You are going to maybe get sunburnt or be really cold or, not have enough water. Like you're going to have all of the experiences that the sea provides, whether you like it or not. And the sea is our earthly experience. In the LDS faith, we are taught that we existed before Earth, and then we exist on Earth, and then we exist after Earth. And then God showed me arriving, and you're not on the sea anymore. And none of the effects of the sea exist where God is on the shore. And it really gave me a perspective that we are dealing with imperfect people. And like we were talking about, people who commonly have power over eons of time, there are systems of oppression that they've put into place. That's pretty irrefutable across the times, right? There are systems of oppression that we are all dealing with, whether that's sexism, racism, homophobia, all of these things. And that is very distinctly a sea issue. And nobody escapes it. We can change vessels. We can religion hop. We can say, screw you all, and just jump into the ocean with our flippers and say, I'm not dealing with any of you suckers. Right? Like we can do that. But we still can't escape the sea in this life. And it gave me such peace because that was like that pivotal moment of, like this doesn't math for me. And because I chose to turn to God instead of anchoring myself deeper in my pride, which feels safer in the moment, but then I would still be grappling with confusion and distrust and hurt. Whereas now I have such clarity of, yeah, we are all so messed up. Poor God that has to deal with all of us to run the show. He's dealing with all of these awful systems that we have in place, and he still loves us.
Yeah.
And so it gave me a lot of patience and grace for the experience that we have on this earth, and such knowledge knowing that is not God's way, that he is not sexist, he is not racist. He loves all of his children, no matter what spectrum of anything they fall on. They are his. And like the love is there, and that it is a completely different lens and experience that we will have on his solid ground.
Wow, there's a lot to chew on there. You want to jump in on that, Ashley?
So thank you for sharing that. And it's a it's a great visual. So I think one of the things that, like, if you have the ability to say the thing, like,
Uh-huh.
it's one thing to be on the boat, be getting seasick, and for people to be like, "You're not seasick. There aren't
Yeah.
waves. There's not enough," like that is like stifling, like that's the like drive you crazy kind of thing. And it's just really interesting and refreshing that you're on the ocean and in the boat and able to say, like, "Oh, no, look at the waves are rocking. Like, this is
Oh,
real and
yeah.
this is true." And I think that's a very freeing and liberating thing to be able to do, or place to be. And so I think I don't think that's everyone's experience, like it's like you have to work to get to that point where you can say the thing you need to say and find peace in the circumstances. And so I guess I'm wondering a little bit of like, how did you get to that point where you're like, well, I'm just going to speak up and say this is misogynistic and paternalistic, and like, what was that like for you?
Yeah.
And then how did people deal with it around you?
Honestly, it's not my job to worry about how people deal with it around me. And I think it is a very frail sense of self and sense of God if you cannot acknowledge errors, faults, mistakes, horrifying things, because we all know they're there. And so to be able to say, yeah, I don't I don't like this situation. I don't like how this is constructed, or this system that is in place doesn't mesh, because acknowledging it and owning that none of us are perfect, and that no religion is perfect, because nobody running them is perfect. It actually is very freeing. And when we accept our flaws, whether that's individually or systemically, you lose the rigidity of having to be right. And so you can ebb and flow with storms, because you are built to move and to flow, rather than having to stand so stock still in the rigidity of everything is fine. This is good. This is how it has to be. Like, oh yeah, that could be improved upon. And that isn't. And so as I have spoken up, and I've held different leadership positions within my church, and I have had some leaders that push back and don't like, um, and that's okay, because when people have to be so rigid in their thinking, that is simply them trying to feel safe, because it feels very scary to let go of the idea of that has kept them so safe for so long, that it has to be one way, this is the way. And so I can have a lot of compassion for them for the most part. Sometimes I vent to my husband. But I can have a lot of compassion that they're just trying to figure their crap out, and they're at a different phase than me, and that's okay. Like,
Yeah,
I can speak up and they cannot like it. That's okay.
I'm interested, is the rigidity you're talking about on behalf of the leaders or the people who are deconstructing? And I ask that because in my work with people, I tell them all the time, like, two things can be totally true at the same time. That
Yeah.
your parents have a backstory, they were hurt, they were doing the best they could, and at the same time, what they did totally hurt you and was wrong. And you can be angry about it and all of these things at the same time. And when it comes to a church, I think we have to give people room to be seriously pissed off that they were lied to or
Yeah.
told really bad stories by bad theology. And even Jesus, sort of eventually pointed at the temple and said, hey, not a stone of that thing's going to stand on another. And even I have very limited understanding of the LDS church, but even that I think is like, hey, this church is corrupt, we need a new one. And it seems, I'm in a place of like, American Christianity is so effed up. we're in a time where it just really needs to come tumbling down so a new spirituality can emerge. And so I guess I'm asking, like, is there a time when you get to a point of like, hey, this thing just needs to be disassembled so something new can come and rise from its dead ashes?
Yeah, which I think is what Christ did when he came, right? He
Right.
fulfilled the law of Moses. He brought a higher law.
You
And
rip
of
the
course, he
fig
said
tree
that
out by the roots and throw it in the fire, kind of thing.
exactly. He said he was building on, not destroying. But I think, to answer the first thing you said, I've seen rigidity in people trying to deconstruct. And I think that that's where throwing the baby with the bathwater both out can come into place, because it's very black and white, very dichotomous. It's one or the other. There's two options here. And that is a very simple way of seeing things, and nothing is that simple. And I also see it with leaders, like, no, it has to be this way, and we can't deviate from what we've always done, and we have to just continue. And either way doesn't evolve. And I think that Jesus was all about evolution. If we look at the Bible, for example, I really love, because I coach parents of teens, I love looking at it as kind of a human development thing. And so I look at the Bible, and we have little kids, like the children of Israel, when Moses was leading them out, they're very juvenile, right? It has to be black and white. He gave them the 10 commandments. They couldn't, it just was a struggle. Do this, don't do that, like little kids. Can't cross the street without somebody with you, and don't touch hot things, and your bedtime's 8, right? And then we kind of had like adolescence, where Christ comes and he's like, you guys are smart enough. We're going to give you something harder. And we're developing as we go. And now we're kind of in our adulthood, maybe middle age, where we're like, this doesn't feel good either. I need to hit my next step of development, which is, evolving my spirituality. And so to be able to, again, flow and make peace with being wrong, having incomplete information, and not knowing everything, which people feel really anxious about letting go of those things. But when we can embrace, like, we really don't know much. And if we can just kind of embrace that, peace lives on the other side of that. And then we can so much more fluidly talk about what's working and what's not, and what feels Christ-like and what doesn't. Pucky Rowan, you're commenting I'm just looking at the comments really quick. I'm trying to keep a hold. Thank you, Brian. Pucky says, how is LDS different than evangelicalism? If I can ask, you can totally ask. Just like Pastor Paul isn't super familiar with my religion, evangelicalism is not super familiar to me. So if you have something specific that you want to know the difference on, I can tell you my religious philosophy. So comment, and I will keep a hold of that. And thank you, Brian.
And while Pucky's doing that, let me throw up a picture of the book, Mom Got Jesus Wrong, Hallelujah, by Heather Frazier. And you can go to heatherfrazier.com and pre-order. It's not out yet, right?
It publishes in October.
Okay.
I am so excited about this, and I would like to invite your listeners to look at my multiple copy page, because that is where the real value is. I love book clubs. And so if you buy 5 or more books, I will come either in person or virtually to your book club. I love having conversations like this, Ashley and Pastor Paul. I love it. And I love talking all things Jesus. Nothing scares me. And so I would love to come to your book club to meet your group. So 5 or more books will get me at your book club, which is pretty awesome.
Wow.
So there's a little, do you want more than 5 copies button right on that landing page.
Love it.
Yeah.
And so this is a beautiful cover, and there is a story to the art in the book too, right?
Yes. The artist is a very well-known artist within my faith. His name is J. Kirk Richards. And I love things that are beautiful. I love fine art. And I wanted this book to not only be beautiful with what it's teaching you and how it helps your heart to heal, but also visually. And so I commissioned an original art piece from Kirk. And this is just a tiny little snippet. Like if the picture is this big, like, it's really big. The front cover is just a tiny little piece of the cover. And her journal unfolds month by month. And every month it starts with a little snippet of this larger picture. And as Avis starts to put the pieces together to be able to see the whole picture, so do the readers. And so by the last month, you see the entire image for the first time. You get the big picture, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
And I just I love his work. He's very forward thinking. And through his work as an artist, he has tried to depict Christ through the lens that he sees Christ, which is inclusive, loving. So he does a lot of pride and Jesus, which I love. And he has this beautiful painting of Eve, and she is black.
Oh,
And it
wow.
is stunning. I invite you
Wow.
to Google J. Kirk Richards looking on all of his artwork. So Doug on the left says, "Did Jesus die on a stake?" in the comments. Doug, I believe that he died on a cross, but more importantly than the details, however that looks, I believe that Jesus died for you and I. And I think that that is the most important element, my friend.
Mm. So let me ask you about the book. And Ashley, I'm sorry you haven't had a chance to jump in here in a second, but so Avis is the main character here, but you mentioned there are parts of Avis that are you and parts of Avis that are other people. So tell us about using that character as a part of your story and the story of others, and why mom? Why is the book title focused around mom got Jesus wrong?
Okay, I love this question. All right. A lot of people, when I'm telling them about the book, it is a metaphor. It's a parable. And Avis is you and I, and her mom is the harmful aspects of organized religion. Now, again, I'm highlighting in the book the harms of organized religion. I am still an active member of my organized religion, and there's so much goodness in so many organized religions, but I am speaking to the harm. So the mom is the harm. Her brother is patriarchy. There's a Christ figure. There's a mentor and a guide. There is a righteous example of patriarchy. Somebody that isn't scared to, advocate for women and have women on the same level as them. And then there are evil characters, the siren call of the world and sin and all of the things. And I chose the mom to be organized religion because I love the female aspects of Christ. As a hen gathereth her chicks. And to me, any gospel, whatever name you want to call it, is meant to be very nurturing, like a mother. To be a safe, cozy, comfy, nuzzly, let me fix you dinner and patch up your wounds and sing you to sleep kind of experience for all of us. And so I really wanted it to be the mom, not the dad. And then Um, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. That we don't hear a lot about Avis's dad. And I did this very intentionally because, and this is something that is, to speak to you, Pucky, something that is fairly unique to LDS culture is that we believe we have a mother in heaven. If we are God's children, surely we have a mother. But rarely do we talk about her. And this is one aspect that I don't like. And so I call out this bad behavior in the book, and I flipped the script.
You don't like that we don't talk about the mother?
Yes, I don't like that she's taboo, or that like some people will say, well, we don't talk about her because we don't want to blaspheme her name. And to me, a goddess is not so weak. She is strong, and she can handle people talking trash, and that doesn't scare her. She wants to be here and love us and be present in our lives.
Yeah.
And so I flipped the script a little bit so that people could be like, oh, well, why aren't we talking about her dad? And why isn't the dad such a pivotal role? And where is the dad? And why don't we know anything about the dad? Just to put a fun little spin on that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Doug
in
the chat asks if he says Asherai, Asuri. I've heard Asherah or Asherah, which in evangelicalism, we consider Asherah to be a pagan god, but definitely have heard a lot lately about Asherah being God's wife. So
it reminds me of when we had Neil Douglas Klotz on, and who wrote a book about like the Aramaic, like Jesus.
The Aramaic
and
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. That's the name of the book, the Aramaic Jesus. Anyway, like he highlighted, I can't remember the exact word. It's like Abun, Abwoon in Aramaic. Like we would say in charismatic Christianity, would be like, oh, daddy God, it's a daddy God. And he's like, no, actually the word is Abun, if I'm getting this straight. And it's more feminine than it is masculine. Like the original God spirit, the life force that was the focal point of Jesus when he was on earth, was neither male nor female. It was a blend of both. And it was a much more nurturing presence, as you're pointing out, than what over the centuries, thousands of years later, we're like, oh, God is a man, obviously. Like
I wonder who called that shot.
Yeah, like, that's actually not the way Jesus experienced and connected with this spirit,
Yeah. Well, and the Hebrew word Elohim again is two. It is yin and yang. It is he and she. It is them.
Yeah.
And so when we look at systems of oppression, like they've pretty much existed forever.
Exactly.
And Pneuma in the Christian New Testament is also a female noun.
It's amazing what a shift. Like you can say that and be like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, I get it. But it is so dramatic to only be taught and encouraged to connect with a male God like that. That's now that I'm saying it's like, that's a whole weird thing. Like what were we thinking?
And again, if we flipped the scripts and women ran the show and we said, here's our female God and here's our female run church and here's our female leadership and you should all listen to just only these female voices, like how many dads would be like, yes, please. Yes, that is where I want to send my son.
Yeah.
Like, we really have to deconstruct it and look at it. And again, the cocktail of separating out our wounds and our pride so that we can really connect with God, because both of those things can get in the way if we're not aware of them and if we're not working through those things.
So what do you do if patriarchy jumps up and bites you again in church in the next?
I usually sit and cry, Pastor Paul. um, no, that's later. I get pissed first. That is part of the sea that we are all on. So I can expect it, and I can understand that. So another really great story that Avis experiences in the book. In the LDS faith, there is different little groups within the congregation, like kids 3 to 12, right? And then we have the youth group and all the things. So I was working with other women with the kids ages 3 to 12. And every year they do we call it the primary program, where the kids get up and they sing and they kind of run the congregational show. And it's adorable. It is so adorable. They're grabbing the mic and they're, and they're like, it's so cute. And they're quoting scriptures and singing songs, and it's just precious. And the leadership had approved our date. And so we had been practicing songs with the kids, and it was a few weeks out. And then the leadership, who is male, said, no, we're going to change it because these other male leaders want it on a different date for like no good reason in my book. Right. And it was really disappointing. And they kind of played the trump card on us. No pun intended. And then one of the male leaders came in and just sat and talked in circles at us. And I do cry when I get mad. And so I'm sitting there crying, which pisses me off even more, because I hate that response. Like, I just want to scratch somebody's eyes out, but I'm just sitting there crying, like, like a pushover, but I'm not a pushover. And this man had the audacity to quote at us the story of Abraham and Isaac, and that we needed to sacrifice all that God asked.
Mm.
And I like, in the shows how they picture you like jumping at somebody and like strangling them. That's what I wanted to do. But of course I was just crying. One of the gals next to me, though, had the wherewithal to say, this is nothing like the story of Abraham and Isaac. You are not an all perfect knowing God. And this is an overreach of power.
Ooh.
And
yeah.
I just was like, thank you, Emily. I love you. Because that's exactly what I wanted to say. And this story is in the book in a slightly different flavor, again, because I'm stringing all of these events into one character. And I totally forgot what the question was.
I was asking about what you do when patriarchy jumps up and bites you again.
Normally I cry. So of course I was sitting there crying, but I had my backup girl with me. And I had to chew on this because it really pissed me off. Like, how dare he think that he's so much better just because men wanted it different, right? And fortunately, I have this habit of being like, God, do the math for me, because it's not mathing. This does not add up. Like, why? Why does it have to be this way? And again, because I'm very visual, I could see God and I was putting this man right between us so that I couldn't connect with God. Because that's what patriarchy teaches us, right? We all have to look to another human authority, typically a man, in order to connect with God. And he let me know that I don't have to put this man between the two of us, that he doesn't have to affect our relationship, and that his bad behavior is on him. And yes, it did affect when we were going to have this program. And that's disappointing. And that's for him to figure out. And it has nothing to do with me. So when we look at racism, sexism, patriarchy, that's on that person. And they're trying to put it on us. And they're trying to get us to buy into their crappy gaslighty paradigm, and we don't have to. We can connect with God and we can seek him out and her and connect with our heavenly parents. And that, yeah, that is what's relevant.
There's some part in my little DID system here, though, that's like, yeah, but he's still getting away with it. He's still getting away with it. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. and it's easy to go there because that's how society thinks and that's how we've been trained to think. But when we can look at the bigger picture and kind of zoom out and again, like pull our pride out of the story, if we really do believe in God, like we can let him sort that out with them. We really don't have to meddle in their affairs.
Well, I really appreciate you bringing that perspective and letting our audience chew on that.
What do you guys think?
What do you think, Ashley?
She's speechless.
I think that I think it's an important strand. And I think it does need to be woven through. I think I would struggle a little bit with like this is the whole tapestry, is you always just like it's always the way to just like find peace internally and connect with God, and then like kind of whatever happens. I think I struggle a bit with that. I do agree that healing and peace and happiness does come from the inside. It's not something that another person external to you or circumstances or whatever ultimately can be responsible for. So I appreciate the push inside and like finding that peace, but I just I would struggle, and it could absolutely be acculturation and like the environment I was raised in by, badass women that took it to the systems they were in. Like maybe I'm just kind of like, I have that sort of like drive to seek to seek the Reformation, to not accept the structure, like I think that probably is where I would continue to try to push.
Yeah. And that is where our heroine in the book does push. But just like Christ, we can make so much more change and reformation from a place of knowing who we are, not buying into paradigms that are being sold to us, and staying grounded in God's love creates so much more change than spewing hatred with hatred and or like frustration. And it feels better, so it's more sustainable.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm naturally probably a justice person, and like
I am too.
It's
been a hard lesson. It's been really hard.
So I would like to hold off an answer in some ways because I want to process, and my answer may be different tomorrow. But I'm a person that thinks kind of like Ashley said, there's no one right way to do it. I'm a big believer that Martin Luther King Jr. was successful in his nonviolence because Malcolm X and the Black Panthers were scary to white people. So they're like, okay, if we have to make a choice, we'll go with
the lesser of the two scary.
Yeah. We'll go with the lesser of the scary. And so when I do see Jesus, what I love about what you're saying is like, I want to find a peace that gives me a foundation in the middle of any situation, that I don't get knocked about by the tide in any situation. And in that, I see that there were times when the rich young ruler came to Jesus, and it says, he asked this question and Jesus looked on him and loved him and said, give away everything, which was a really hard ruling to make on the guy. And the guy went away, and Jesus didn't say, no, wait. Let me give you context here. He just let him walk away. And then there were other times that Jesus flipped over tables and put ropes together and started hitting things with them. I don't know if he hit the people or if he just hit the animals, but in my mind, Jesus was pissed in that moment, because it says he like came down on Monday, he looked around, he went back to Bethany, and he came back the next day, and he's like, the beatings are going to begin now, and so
he wasn't a doormat.
so there was a lot of room in his pure healthiness and love of the people around him to say, you know who you guys are? Your dad's Satan. That's who you are. So there's like this, there's a lot at work there that to me, there's a time to say, hey, MFer, this is just wrong. It's just wrong. And I'm just going to tell you it's wrong. So,
yeah.
All of that is always here for.
No, I love how Christ always stood his ground. He never yielded to keep people happy. He was not a people pleaser, and he did not silently just do nothing. He incited change from divine energy, which I think is the best way to incite change.
Yeah, very much. Well, hey, the book is Mom Got Jesus Wrong, Hallelujah. And it has this beautiful art. And for those listening on the podcast, it has a bird on the cover, and Ashley loves birds and always sees heaven in animals, right, Ashley?
Yes, in my retirement, I'm going to become a birder and like go to the Swiss Alps or something and see rare birds. I don't know if that's where they live, but I'm going to do it. Yes, it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful artwork.
Okay, that is another Easter egg, Ashley.
Oh, okay.
Bird is the Latin word is avis. And every character in this book has a very specific name for a very specific reason. And Avis is the one that I actually don't really talk about. I go over most of the names at the end, but Avis is not one that I discuss, but that is an Easter egg.
Wow.
Very cool. Wow. Very, very clever.
All right. Wow. You can go buy the book in pre-sale, heatherfrazier.com. And I think that's the common spelling of Frazier, F-R-A-Z.
Frazier with the Z.
A Z-I right in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll put the link in the show notes for the podcast listeners. And all right, Heather, we have loved chatting with you.
Thank you. It's been wonderful. You guys are fantastic. Keep the good work going. We need powerful voices.
Cool.
Thank you, Heather.
We'll do it again. We'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye-bye. All right. And for Ashley and me, it's What's on My Mind time. I know you were tired for work. Well, Dawn wants to know if you're eagle watching. You are the eagle watcher of the world.
So it's my
you did
new
see
obsession.
An eagle, didn't you? Yeah.
I think I'm kind of an eagle whisperer, because when let's see, 1, 2, 3 occasions, I specifically went out like, oh, there's an eagle's nest, let's go see it. All 3 times I see like in one case I saw 7, like it's crazy. And then this last Saturday, we went out to this local area in Central California on the San Joaquin River to see this eagle's nest, and there was an eaglet there, and then we saw the parent eagle flying down. Anyway, so yes, I have been.
And they're huge, right?
They're unbelievably huge. Like the other time when this was like, I was just minding my own business, taking a walk along this river trail, and here came this eagle. I think I might have talked about it on the show because our friend Sharon Weaver from the San Joaquin River Parkway was posting about it. But anyway,
and she signed up as a subscriber this week. Thank you, Sharon.
Exactly, our new best friend, and flew over my shoulder 15 feet up, and it was huge. Like these things are like you can't even imagine, because they look big from far away. So then, like up close, they're ginormous.
Wow. Do you want to tell who you canoed out with to see the eagle this week, or is that a secret? Well,
I'll say this. 1, it was my birthday. So happy birthday to me on Saturday. Yeah. And 2, we were very, very, very excited to host our new California U.S. Senator, Adam Schiff, in our community. And we took him out to the San Joaquin River. And this is where we saw the eaglet on a canoe. This is me and Senator Schiff looking at eagles. It was so exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so kind of like the Eagles are returning, is that right? Like they're
It feels
reappearing.
like I don't feel it is a very profound, both true in the natural and feels very profoundly um supernatural as well. That as a river is being restored in our region, here comes the life, here comes the biodiversity, here come these beautiful eagles. And it is definitely both a literal and metaphorical expression of restoration. I love it.
I love that. And
Love it.
I guess the condors are making a comeback too. I saw a video recently of them releasing a condor into the wild. And you talk about a huge bird. Those things are
Yeah.
mammoth birds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So beautiful.
There's a famous like what is the famous like prophetic that word about the condor and the eagle? Somebody will
Oh,
send it.
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, you can Google it. It's like a whole thing. Anyway. Yes.
Speaking of prophetic words,
Okay.
Friday, we have a special episode of the
Oh,
podcast
yes.
Friday morning. If you've ever heard the podcast Heaven Bent by
Yep.
Tara Jean Stevens, if you haven't heard the podcast Heaven Bent, you should. Tara Jean is a former evangelical Bethel, Toronto Vineyard Blessing following, wonderful person. She's I'm agnostic now. Though she'll tell us on Friday, but she's going to be on with us. And the 4th season of Heaven Bent is about somebody who we know very, very well, and we'll let you know. But it's a prophet who goes around and prophesies words for people that they shouldn't know but do. And it turns out they may have been getting that information not from God, but from Facebook. Elon is not the only one data mining these days. Apparently, some of our favorite prophets have been
Yes.
data mining as well. And it just breaks my heart.
This is going to be a very special episode because it's a really big deal to
Yeah.
have Tara Jean with us. And so we're special day, Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And then we're going to go a week and a day and start our regular news schedule on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
So
Which
we're
means
doing
we're going to
2 shows
lose
this week.
We're going to lose our Australians.
We're going to lose our Australians.
Yeah, we're so sorry, guys.
Yeah. But we are, it's on YouTube record, so hopefully and we'll for sure have some planned Zoom times in the future
Yeah.
where we can all get together and talk, because that's always kind of fun. And we did that. It's been a while, but we did that a little bit ago. And we were able to be joined by Alex from Brisbane, and that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So 11 a.m. Pacific time on Friday for that. My what's on my mind is we are lovers of the reality show Survivor. Ashley has her guilty pleasures of like Housewives of.
By the way, I'm very proud. We made it through a 45-minute conversation with Heather, and I did not say Real Housewives of Salt Lake City or Secret Lives of Mormon Wives once, although I did ask her about it before we started filming.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, I'm obsessed.
Dawn in the chat is asking time on Sunday. It's going to be 9 a.m. on Sundays, right? Is that what time we decided?
That's correct.
9 a.m. Pacific.
Because yoga is not till 4 on Sunday,
right,
so we can squeeze in ish at 9. Yeah.
Right. So it'll be like our church service on Sunday morning, right?
Yeah.
So we watched Survivor. We just finished season 49. Is that right?
48, because there's going to be 49 and then season 50.
Yeah. And so on Survivor, one of the things is always like, who's the villain? Who's doing the nasty stuff behind the scenes? And a few years ago, there was a guy named Russell who was like the worst villain ever. And he like took everybody's socks and threw them in the fire at night. And so it became like the worse the villain, the better. And this last season, it was like this group of people were like, we're not going to be villains. We're going to be good people. We're going to keep everything out in the open. And it was kind of refreshing in this season where it seems like there's so much corruption and evil and horrible stuff going on. we kind of had this sweet,
It was
loving,
innocent. It was very innocent and life
yeah.
affirming and like human, like it was very pro-human.
And in some ways, the best person won. The person that deserved to win won, and then this other person, Eva, like really made this strong case for herself, and she came in second. And it was just, I don't know, there was something beautiful about it. And so Survivor spoke to me this week and was life affirming, and I just kind of needed it in this space this week. And also this week I was off from my master's program and I was off from teaching, and it's been just a great moment of not having anything to effing do for a short period of time. But school starts again on Monday for me, so I'll be back into it.
Can I tell you one last thing on what's on my mind, and it ties to something that Heather said about divine energy, and
Yeah.
this is actually also on my mind. So I learned this yesterday, and this may be a big no duh for a lot of people out there, new to me, that theta brainwaves are restorative, like they physically heal your body. And they are like the beta brainwaves are the ones that words like grind, 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 do all the work, blah, 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 blah. And theta is when you're like removed, reflecting, meditating, praying, the spiritual practices like that I grew up with, like were things that would like shift your brain waves, and that is actually physically like improves your body. So
Wow.
that's what's on my mind is like, oh, I got to get me more of those theta things.
But that's not like a pill you take, right?
No, you have, but then I came home from yoga last night and I just like went on YouTube and I was like, guided meditation for theta brain waves. And it was a certain kind of sound and like background music, but it was like a voice casting, like casting vision and like thinking about God and like kind of get outside of your daily grind. And I was like, oh, I've been doing this like my whole life. And
nice.
It's spiritual practice. But anyway, it's you like we as human beings, like now we have the science, like we have to do this kind of stuff to live, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, is it the focus of Scientology? Oh no.
That's it. Why do you say, oh no?
Because I don't want to be in a cult.
These are the things where we were told, like, if you do these things, demons will jump on you, back in the day.
I'm just gonna go with the
learning
neuroscience.
that
Yes.
we can use these to access heaven and divinity and not call demons unto ourselves. So
yes.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being with us tonight. Thanks to Heather Frazier. Go to heatherfrazier.com to order her book. And I love that she wrote a parable, because I have a book called Religious Right, Religiously Wrong. That is a modern day parable as well. And so parable writers hang together, And again, yes, thanks to Sharon Weaver for becoming a subscriber this week. Go to evangelicalish.com, become a subscriber. And yeah, we love you all a ton. And we'll see you on Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time for Tara Jean Stevens from Heaven Bent. Did we say everything we have to say? Bye-bye.
And cut. Scene.
And scene. Okay.